Hello and welcome. I've not streamed for a while because my home internet has been terrible, but I'm back and my internet's kind of fixed. So let's keep our fingers crossed that this is going to work. If I do cut off, I will be back. I'm just testing out my new network, but also let's have a look at Laravel and API Platform. Now, if you don't know about API Platform, it's basically a PHP API first framework. And historically, it's been heavily focused on Symfony, which, click over here, it's what it used to be. It used Doctrine under the hood, and it started off its journey in life as this kind of Symfony bundle called a REST bundle, I think it was called. And it's actually really, really good. But my biggest problem with using it was I only know enough Symfony to get by. So I couldn't really take my API platform API and kind of take it to that next level because I had to kind of understand all of this Symfony stuff in the background, which I wasn't used to. Now, however, we can click this magical button and here comes Webby in a Lambo. We can actually use Laravel with API platform, and the sky is the limit, right? So I have got an API ready to go. Here we go. It's called Just Steve. I didn't know what to build, okay? I just called it Just Steve King. I'm gonna, I don't know, a blog or something. We'll figure it out as we go along. But we've got this nice new Laravel install. I haven't done anything other than modify the editor config. What I will do quickly, though, is what I usually do is come over to here and just kind of just reformat that one. And we're going to make sure we're on 8.3. We are going to Composer update and Composer bump. Let's quickly bump all dependencies to the latest. And we're going to Composer update again. There we go. So if we start off by just going root list, these are the roots that we've got by default. We've got Sanctum installed and all is good in the world, right? We are somewhere. Yeah, that page turning is so cool. Like just trying to decide which way to go. Well, you're obviously going to click this way to get your Lambo, not that way because I'm not that good on the guitar. But we're going to focus on docs and stuff. And I actually had the privilege of giving a talk about this on Friday at API Platform Conference, and it was a lot of fun. So it's so easy to do anything with. Now, we will focus on the code today because that's kind of why we're here. So let's get this installed. Composer, require, API, platform, and we're going to go for Laravel. But at the same time, I'm also going to say API platform, and we are going to install GraphQL as well. Because why not? It's there. It's available. Why wouldn't we? So it's installing all the kind of packages underneath. That's going to do all of the magic, and it will automatically publish some stuff to the kind of public space, which is for our documentation, and then the configuration itself. So at this point, nothing has changed. We've still got a Laravel app. We haven't got our API yet. Yes, it's, I believe it is a 1.0 now. Well, 4.0, because it's going to mirror the version of the core API platform versions. So they're going to move both Laravel and Symfony forward at the same pace, give or take. So Laravel is in a 4.0, not a 1.0. It's been in alpha for probably about 3 or 4 months, and I've been help testing it, and it's pretty darn cool. Now, I want to get rid of my squiggles. So what we're going to do is composer require dev, and what I will do is I won't need the debug bar for this. So I'm just going to install some PHP Stan, some security advisory stuff, just to get rid of squiggles and make sure I'm all happy. And there we go. So it all starts with a model, right? Like all good stories. So let's create a new model, and we're going to make a model, and we're going to call it category. We're going to create migration and a factory. There we go. So come over to our database, migrations, come down to our categories. And what we're going to do, I'm not going to go too deep into this. I'm just going to say tables, string, name. Categories have a name. And that's all I care about right now. I'm not even going to clean up the code, which is rare for me, I know. It's something that I'd usually jump on. But I want to just get straight into it with this stuff. So if a category's got a name, over here, what it needs to do is also have a name, and we're just going to say that. We're going to say this faker, and we're just going to pass in a word. Nothing crazy. So what we want is a fillable here for name. So over in our web browser, what I'll do actually is, because it'll bug me otherwise, I want to come to here and just say, make it secure. Done. So HTTPS, just steveking.test. Here we go. We've got a Laravel API. We are off to the races, right? So if we go to /API, here we go. We have got our operations. We've got our docs. We are ready to rock and roll. This is our API platform documentation. And what we can do is start to configure this how we want to. So if we come to config an API platform, what we're going to do here is we're just going to change that name to just Steve King, perhaps. Or realistically, what you're going to want to do is say app name and the API documentation for env app name. There we go. So we've got stuff started, but you're not seeing this on here because this is the kind of HTML version, right? So what we want to do is come down to our doc formats here, and we've got this kind of open API specification that we can use here. So I'm going to come along to, not that, Aspen, there we go. So what I want to do is go ahead and say HTTPS, just steveking.test, and just send that request. Cool. So if we now go to API, is giving us an entry point. But if we add the header of accept VND open API in JSON, wait, I need to go to /docs. There we go. Docs. Here we go. We've got our open API spec straight out the box. We've got the info, API platform as a title, description, version, but it is not reading from up here. So what we will do is quickly clear that config, resend that request, and see if it's been picked up. So far, it's not. That could be a bug. We will find out. Ooh. Okay, so interesting. So what we want to do next is we want to start managing our category, for example. So what I'm going to do is just migrate the database quickly so everything is up there, no errors can happen. And I'm going to just Laravel pipe that file. So, you ready to get into it? We want to have full CRUD, for example, so we can say API resource. That is it. Come over to here, refresh. Don't want to translate that page. And there we go. API categories. Everything's fine in my life. Categories ID, delete, got a patch. You'll notice it doesn't have put. So the way that API platform works is that you can add a put operation, but they recommend using patch because then it uses the merge patch standard, which is a little bit easier. So where can we go from here? That is the question. So let's say we want to get all categories. So we can click try it out, execute. Currently, we haven't got anything. So why don't we just go ahead and open up our database seeder. And what we're going to do is we're going to say category factory. We're going to say, let's make 20. So a migrate, fresh, and seed. Now, if we execute that again, what you'll see is we're getting these JSON LD data. Now, that's the default way that this works. However, if we come, where is it on here? Clear that. Here we go. So you can say, give me a text HTML, execute, and it'll give me all of that. Not super useful. But if we come back to our documentation, for example, our configuration over here, we can uncomment that. And now if we come back to categories, we can actually say, give me a JSON API, which is something we might be more familiar with, right? So click to try it out, execute, and we've now got JSON API good to go. Yeah, out of the box, the docs is really nice. It just, and you know, it's a portion of a Lambo, but you know, the effort was made. So links to self, meta, then all the data within it. I haven't had to do anything, nothing at all. Although one thing that is bugging me is that I've got this API prefix, which annoys me. So what I'm going to do is remove that because this would be an API by default, right? So let's Laravel pipe that whole file a minute. Root prefix. There we go. So now if I refresh and just go to docs, need to remove that / as well. There we go. So categories, I can get the categories. So now if I come back to here, for example, and let's add another request. And for this, we're just going to add another request, and we're going to go to HTTPS, and we're going to go just steveking.test categories. There we go. We've got the default, which is JSON LD. We can come over here and say accept application. And then we want VND dot API plus JSON, I believe is the correct format. There we go. So we've got all of our data. We've got everything that we might want. Obviously, this isn't kind of returning the way I'd typically do it. But there is ways to kind of override parts of this. So where can we go from here? What could we do? Let's go back to here, come to our category. So let's kind of focus in on this API resource a second. And if I just say operations and set it as an empty array for now. If I refresh this, there's no operations. So I can be very choosy about what operations I want. So categories, for example, well, I want to say, get collection. And I also want to be able to get a specific category. And I don't want to be able to post, put, patch, or delete. I just want read-only model. Let's come back, refresh. Suddenly, bang, it works. Fantastic. But my API is currently just open to the wild, right? Anybody can access it and anyone can do what they want. So let's just add in some middleware and say that auth sanctum is a required middleware. Now, there might be an easier way to do this, but I know I can add it on a per root basis. So I can refresh that, come over to here. And now if I try it out again and execute, it's going to say 401 status code. And no, thank you, Steve. You are not allowed. Not bad. We're getting somewhere. So let's pretend for a second that, I don't know, I'm authenticated. At the minute, the collection is just going to return the default amount. So if is it on here? I believe it's on this. So items per page, we can set that to 10 so that, let's just uncomment that for now so it works while we're testing. So try that out again, execute, and now we are only getting, there's 20 items, but we're only getting 10. So we'd have to kind of start to cycle through our API a little bit. Makes sense. Seem like a created at type of guy. So let's move on. What else can we do? Okay, next up, we can say, let's make a policy. And we're going to create a policy for category policy. And that's for the category. So category policy. And so view any, to view any policies, we're just going to return user has verified email. Kind of like my default to start with. And yes, we want to do that one. To create one, you've got to have that. We'll add that for now. And delete, we'll add that for now as well. We don't need to restore because it's not soft deleted, and force delete is not a requirement either. So when it comes to update, what we want to do is just replace this and say return false there. And then we can return user ID. So, there's no ownership model there, is there? So we're not going to focus on an update and delete on this model. That's just Steve being a bit crazy. Obviously, haven't had enough coffee. So we got those two methods, view any and just view. That'll do for now. And we will fix all of that up. So far, so good, right? We've got what we do in Laravel here is have a policy, and in our controller, we would then go, okay, gate allows or ability and link through. What we can do here, if we had a ability to post, for example, we could specify which method we want. So great. We want to be able to only allow authenticated people to create. That's probably going to complain about argument order. There we go. So if we wanted to, we could add this, but we were doing this as a read only. So I'll remove that for now, and we'll move that on to that next model. And for now, I'd be pretty happy with this as it is. I've limited the pagination. I've added some middleware. I'm happy to move on. I've literally written 10 lines of code on my model, and I've got all of the API endpoints that I need. So let's move on to the next part. We're going to say, let's make a model, and we're going to call it an article this time. Let's open up our articles table. We're going to add a table string for the title, table string for the slug, which is, no, I hate slugs. Slugs suck. String for the description. We're going to want to say foreign ID, and we're going to say category ID. We're going to constrain that to categories, and we will cascade on delete. We will quickly jump in and say index there as well. Oh my God. This is just, I was, first time I tried API Platform, I was just absolutely gobsmacked. And I was just shocked at just how easy it was to get something up and running really quickly. And then the Laravel version just adds that extra bit on top that makes it like I can do everything else the way that I want to do it and still get the benefits of API. It's just mind-blowingly awesome stuff. So we've got articles. I'm just going to add a table. I'm going to add a text column for the content. And we're just going to leave it at that. We will make this nullable just because. Was it you that kicked Laravel version, or was it Kitchen? No, the Laravel version was in the planning on the way. And when I jumped on a live stream with Kevin, I think it was like 6 months ago, he showed me how to use API Platform on a live stream, and it was a lot of fun. My mind was blown. And then he kind of dropped to me afterwards in a message like, we're going to be working on the Laravel version. And kind of put me in touch with the person building it. And we've had several conversations and chats around it. I've trialed it as it's been built so that I can kind of point out areas where it's a bit more kind of idiomatic Laravel, you could say. And just, yeah, amazing. Absolutely amazing experience. And then I got to speak at their conference. And I made plenty of Lamborghini jokes, as you should at a conference like that. And it was fun. Right, so articles. We have got a title. So we're just going to drop in a sentence here, just nice and simple. We're going to use a description, and we're going to say, we'll use some real text. And if you're ever doing a description for something that should be on the web, then you want to limit the max characters to 160 so you can siphon it and use it for the meta stuff. And then content, we're just going to, again, say real text. And this one, we're just going to do a max characters of 1,000, maybe. Finally, we are going to want that category. Oh my God, have you missed my typos yet? Has anyone missed my typos? Because I really haven't. Right, there we go. Category ID done. So let's open up this article. And we're going to use fillable. And we're going to do title, description. Then we've got the content and the category ID. That's all we need on that one. So public function category. This is a belongs to. So it's going to do that. Now that's going to bug me. I've got to do it the Steve way there. Sorry. You can only change a person so much. There we go. And no, it doesn't depend on fillable. You could literally leave this as unguarded or guarded or whatever you need. It's just going to detect the attributes on the model by default. Not 100% sure how it does it. That's the kind of magic under the hood. So we've got categories. So now what we want to do is say, okay, I also want articles to be accessible. So let's just chuck that on there, refresh, and away we go. Get, post, delete, and patch. So it's not detecting the ID on that one for some reason. Oh, wait a minute. That is probably because I need to migrate first. I'm assuming. Yes. Yeah. Blueprint API Platform and Filament saves you date. Oh my God. I can only imagine using Filament, Blueprint, and API Platform and literally going from YAML to admin panel API all in one go, just like bang. The benefit of using API Platform, which you probably don't know about yet, is if we come down here, you can come and use React admin straight out the box. You can come down and you can generate clients. You can create Next, Nuxt, Quasar, Vuetify, React, React Native, Vue, or bring your own generator, all out of the box with any API platform thing. And obviously, with it now being supported in Laravel, just generating mobile app based off of your API for free. What? Thank you, Christoph. Thank you for tuning in. You are honoring me with your presence. I look forward to your next video. But for the people who are still here, oh, don't forget Mercure. So, yes. Oh, yeah, the client creator was be really, really cool. Right. What am I getting to? I'm getting confused. This is so much that you can do. Okay. Where do we even go next? So, good question. What is the API resource thing you put in the model? Is it package related or Laravel related? So that's just a PHP attribute, a PHP 8.0 onwards attribute. And all it does is, oh, yeah. So all it does, it tells API Platform that you want this model to be used. Now, if you don't like attributes, many reasons why that might be the case, you don't actually have to do that. So let's replicate that behavior. So let's come back to here, refresh. That article has disappeared, right? Thank you again for joining, Kevin. Awesome to see you on Friday. Have a good day. So what we can also do, we can say that it is an API resource. Bang, you can use a crate. What you can also do alongside that is say public static function API resource is going to return an API resource. So I would separate this from the model and find specific classes. Yes, you can do so much with API Platform. This is just like, I'm just touching the surface here. You can get really, really deep into this and just go absolutely wild. Let me just fix that typo. So here we go. We've got API resource. And what we can actually do here is the exact same thing and say, actually, we don't want anything right now, and we're going to iterate over that. So let's say, okay, I want to be able to create a new one. So here's my post. So I can create a new article through the API. Fantastic. So I can use output as false. So this doesn't actually return anything. Click try it out, blah, 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 execute. It just gives you empty content back. I got a error for that one. Oops. Where am I? Let's just kind of fix that whole file up quickly. There we go. What you can also do is specify the status. So I'll use a Symfony component down here, and we're going to say we've accepted or we've created. We're going to sort those arguments. So we can really, really dive in so much into lots of details, such as URI template, short name, description, types, formats, input, output. So all of these options we can control. Like sunset, easy to do. Patch, status, host, schemes, just so many things that you could just add to it. Validation. Let's just go ahead and do that. So make a request, and we're going to call this the article form request. Bam. So when we want to do this, we have got a title. And this is going to be required a string, minimum of 3, max of 255. Then we're going to have that description. and we're going to max that out at 160. Then we're going to have the content, which is going to be nullable to start with. But if we do have it, it should be a string. And that's all I'm going to care about for that one. And then we're going to have that category ID. And that is required integer exists category. Your usual kind of stuff, right? So dispatching custom jobs when something happens. Let me check the docs on that one. Let me just go through this. So we've got this form request, right? This is how we want to validate articles. Come back over here and we can say all of the rules are going to be in the article form request. Let's just sort those arguments. There we go. So it's going to pre-validate everything for us using our form request out of the box as Laravel. Just don't have to write any other code. And it's there. And now if I come back to Aspen and come over to get my spec, it's giving me everything out of the box like this. Just, it's creating a new article for me. Here's a category. Let's just collapse categories, category ID, components. Here we go. So depreciated is false, type, description, all of that good stuff. It is all there in JSON API, ready for us to just kind of grab, use, and be happy with. So where can we take it from here? Take it many places. Let's say manage your articles on the Just Steve King API. Let's see if that gets picked up. Collapse paths, components. Here we go. Bang. Fantastic. Right, so all of that stuff that you can do. You can dive even deeper. I mean, as you saw, you've got all of these options available. You can dive in and be super, super specific. Same thing with post. You can override anything from the parent, basically, which is just mental. Like caching, got caching built in. So let's come back to API platform and let's come through some of the docs. So authorization logic, filtering logic. So what we can do there is, let's say we want to filter this. What I am going to do is just grab that and take it back up here to use that API resource like that, and just remove that and that. I prefer to have it up here. I don't know why. Personal preference. Choose your own adventure there, right? No, you've got to make the resource. So I'm not 100% sure if it uses resources yet. Okay, so I've got a GraphQL API. I don't know if that I need to enable anything on that one. So let's just come back to our config, because what you need to do for GraphQL is enabled and set that to true. Now, I believe let me just a root list. Does it get picked up? API entry point. Graphical. Here we go. So it does have something, but something is erroring. Format graphical is not there. Have I broken something? Yeah, on the bottom of the docs, there are available formats. It's so just. I don't know what's going on with this. That could be an error. It might not be an error. I'm not going to say it is or isn't without really knowing. What, typo for me? Ooh, okay. Is that up here? No, that should be working. I think that might be broken. So GraphQL is a little different. So let's click on this a minute. Let's just kind of have a look at this. Come through. Obviously, you can do so much of this stuff out of the box as well. Let's just search GraphQL support, enable GraphQL. So that should be there by default. API GraphQL, entry point, graphical, GraphQL. I can't see anything that might be stopping it. So that might be broken right now. Ooh, GraphQL graphical? What? Is that? Is it that simple? Is Laravel picking it up wrong? No. No, it's not. Strange, but strange. I'll let them know about that. GraphQL Playground. This is obviously in the Symfony one, so it's not the same. Okay, so you can define those. That's fine. Okay, I think it might be broken, so I'll let them know that. Now, they would usually work. That might be a slight bug. So let's just focus back on what we know works. Things like parameters and filters. So we can do like this. Come back to here and come back to our article. What we can also do is add this query parameter and an equals filter on articles. So I'm just going to drop that for now. Do a quick cleanup. Open up my database seeder, and what I'm going to do is swap this out for an article and say, just seed the database and give me 20 articles. Fantastic. So now let's just go back to docs, articles, try it out, execute. Fantastic. We've got all of the things. So what we can do is we can actually say up here and just execute. We have got something. That's a, what sort of query is that? That is an equals filter. So you can actually change the filter. So let's come and look at what they say there. So query parameter name equals that. We don't want an equals filter. We were probably going to want a partial search filter maybe. So let's swap it to that. And let's swap filter over for that. Come back and execute. Apparently we are not getting anything back on that one. But it would usually work if I knew what I was doing. Oh, okay. So let's just stick to that and let's make sure it's not me being Steve here. There we go. So name, we've got one. We've got a partial search filter apparently working. Oh, okay, we got there. Filter. So you've got text feed, start search, end search, partial search. Then you've got like the date filters. You've got all filters. You can dive really deep with this stuff. You can create your own as well, obviously, but there's so much that you can do. That is a good question. How easy is it to hook into serialization, deserialization process? So what I believe you can do is you can create your own serializers and your own formats. So if we come to core and we go to something like extending state providers, that's for like your database and stuff. Post-process objects created from the payload sent in the HTTP request body, authorization, validation. You've got normalizers. So this is what you'd be looking at is, don't know what happened there. But you'd want to go through the normalizers and customize that in some way. Message handlers, works, serialized content builders. Yeah, but you can dive in as deep as you possibly need here. Obviously, security all works. So that's going to work by default. Authentication, Sanctum. So obviously, this is like the initial version. So it's not as, I suppose, fully featured yet, but a lot of things are there and are working. So, for example, I believe you should be able to broadcast and use events still. So there's that, config and assets. Ooh. What's this do? Maybe that's why my GraphQL wasn't working. Ooh, okay. That's also not enabled yet. So I'll mention that one. There's migrations, exposing the model, playing with the API, content negotiation, enabling GraphQL. That's a bit strange that it's just not working. So maybe let me come and check my composer JSON a second. Just bump all of that stuff. Ooh, something broke. Let's come back to our configuration over here. It keeps overriding this root prefix as well. I'll speak to them about that. So if I just go to GraphQL, that's fine. But that isn't. Okay. I might have missed something. I do typos a lot. It is entirely possible. JSON API. Yep. JSON API. I will speak to them about kind of they shouldn't be overriding config so often. Maybe it's because I just ran it. My fault. Probably my fault. And what you can also do is define additional routes within there. Hey Jeff. Oh, my wife's going to interrupt me. I just heard her. Right. So I think at this point, that's the majority of what we can do. That's documented at least. Obviously, filters, parameters, security validation, and getting it up and running. There's a lot more happening. There's loads of stuff that we can do and that will be enabled. It will just be a case of let's kind of walk through and go, okay, Nuxie in it, adding all of that. Yarn create. There's my API. Generate a Nux resource. Oh, that is so cool. I'll add Pinia, do all that stuff. So it's getting there. Oh, thank you, wife.
Waiting.
Oh, thank you. I talk a lot, okay? Right, my wife has brought me lunch, which means that the time is getting on and I should eat before I've got to get my daughter from nursery. And yes, they got cool t-shirts too. But yeah, like if you can just go, okay, Laravel new project, composer require, make model, then over on the front end I can generate all of this stuff, and it just works out of the box. Just fantastic. And while it's still very early days, obviously, there's a lot of potential, and we can still use custom Laravel where we need to. We can add custom API requests. Let's say we want to make a custom API request. Last thing I show you before my food goes cold is if we come down to routes and API quickly, it's got this in there at the minute. So /user. In our config for API platform, that's not being picked up. So we can just say /user. And hopefully it's not being picked up. There's something that you need to do here. I'm not 100% sure. Again, need to work on the docs, I think. But it is getting there. And why would you return a CSV? Oh, that'd be fun. No, I'm not going to do that. That's just mean. I absolutely loved coming to. Anyway, I'm all the way over there. There we go. Absolutely loved Lou. It is fantastic. I even got a super cool mug. Thanking PHP, saying thanks, Steve. Absolutely. It's empty though. That's not so good. Could it come with a refill button? Yeah, absolutely fantastic conference, fantastic city, and amazing thing for us Laravel developers to start looking at embracing something like this is going to be amazing. Can't wait to try it some more. I'm going to work with them on documentation because I want this to be successful. This is making my life so much easier. It'll make your life easier. So give it a try. Join their Discord, or not Discord, Slack. They've got a Slack channel in the Symfony Devs Slack. I'm already part of that, already spoken to them. And yeah, give it a go. Let me know your thoughts on Twitter. I hope you enjoyed the stream. We're going to do some more again soon. PHP docs project. And which project was that? Oh, that wasn't me. It was another bearded dude. That's Tim McDonald. He's doing some major CSS generation stuff for the PHP docs. That's not me. I don't have time for that, unfortunately. I've got too many other things to do. But stay awesome. Catch you next time. And tell me what you want me to stream next. I'm getting the bug again. We need to get streaming. Catch you later. Bye-bye.